What's up, guys? Welcome back to another quick edit here on Free Will Photos. The edit today is actually inspired by a video I watched from Anthony Morganti. He was working inside of Photoshop. You can check that video out in the description box below. This isn't like affiliated with him or anything. I just appreciated what he was doing and said, you know what, I could probably do that in ON1. So if you want, check that out. But if not, let's go ahead and dive into ON1 and make it happen. All right, so inside of ON1, here we are. And this is the end result of what we're going to make. As you can see, it is a low-key photo. And I like how this kind of came out. This is of my daughter on her 8th birthday, if I remember correctly. So let's go ahead and show you the starting point. This is the place in which we're going to start. And you can see that there's all kinds of stuff going on here. So let me go ahead and click on this particular photo of her and let's go ahead and get started. So I've already got a little bit of noise reduction going on here, but that's going to be situational to your image. Not really a big deal here. Now what we're going to do is come over to the effects module and we're going to hit add filter, hit the curves adjustment, and we're just going to come over to this top point. This is the whites. We're going to bring this down. I found that 50% works the best for this particular image. We don't want it to be overly dark, but we also don't want it to be too bright. So I'll just bring it down to this halfway mark and you can see that it darkens the image. Now, the rest of the effect really happens in the local tab. Now, what I'm going to do here is hit add, and I'm going to make a black and white adjustment. And it doesn't matter if you put the black and white adjustment above or below. I think I'm going to go ahead and throw this below. Now, you don't have to have your black and white adjustment. You can do a color just as Anthony Morganti did in his, but I wanted to go black and white with mine. So now I'm going to hit local. All right. And this is where we're really going to hone in this look. Now, if you watch his video, he was using a different layer. But because ON1 doesn't necessarily work in layers, we work with adjustments. We're going to go ahead and click paint with color. And then we're going to select a black color. Now, you can either click up here on the local adjustment and then click the drop down. We're going to use linear left and linear right options, and we're just going to click. Now, this is going to cover a good portion of the screen. The goal here is really just to dial back what it looks like everywhere else and kind of gradually fade in the light to my daughter's face. Your image is going to be a little bit different, but the principle is what I'm trying to teach here. Now, this obviously does not look very good. So what we're going to do is click on the gear icon and we're going to come to our blend modes. This is going to open up our blend options. We're going to go to overlay. Now, this is essentially the same step that Anthony Morganti did inside of his video. I just did it how it works in ON1. So now we're going to do the same thing. And what I'm going to do is copy this mask just so I don't have to redo it later. Okay, we're going to hit add adjustment. And on this one, we're going to hit the same thing. Click, drag over. And I'm just going to go ahead and paste this mask real quick. And then we'll invert it. So now it's on the opposite side. We'll click and drag this over. Maybe even pull it back a little bit. So that way, you know, it doesn't mess with her as much. And as you can see, it is needing the same blend option or blend mode, and that is going to be overlay. Now, you can also mess around with soft light if you want it to be a little less dramatic, but I'm going for the more dramatic approach. So we're going to hit overlay. And the cool thing about this is you can pull this to your heart's content, however it works the best for your particular image. Now, the goal with low key is really just to show that everything else is available in the shot, but the subject matter is actually a little bit brighter. So there's a few different things that you can do. Now that we have like the general base set and ready to go. Now we're going to come over to the develop tab. Now this is where I work a little bit backwards than how Anthony was working. But again, I use that as inspiration because I am now going to use my develop tab similar to how he was using Camera Raw to actually make the adjustment to my photo. So we'll go ahead and pull up on the contrast because, you know, we need some contrast in this image. Then I'm also going to pull up on the highlights. That way we get like that nice shine look on my daughter's face. And then the areas that are actually showing light, they actually pop a little bit. We'll leave the midtones alone, but the cool thing is we have a midtone slider. Unlike Anthony Morgani through Camera Raw, he did not have access to a midtone slider, but you could mess around with that, especially with black and white. It'll really help pull out a few of the details in the image. As you can see, I can do all kinds of stuff with this, but we're not going to mess with that. The next one is the shadows. Now we're going to pull back on the shadows just a little bit. I don't need to pull back too much because the original image was actually already dark. And then the same thing with the blacks. We're going to pull back on that. Now, for me, this makes the image a little bit darker than I would probably care for it to be. So I'm going to expose it just a touch. I know that's kind of contrary to a low-key image, but what I'm trying to do is really like get this pop of light going on back here. Now, another way that you can adjust this is come back over to the local and we're going to find the adjustment. This is our left-hand side adjustment. By clicking on the gear icon, which was already still selected, you can actually pull this away from unfortunately, the skin tones is what it's reading. And that's primarily because this wall back here is like the tone of skin. So that's why it's reading that way. So understand where your adjustments are in your image and what tones or colors are available. So that way, when you come here, you can look at it and say, okay, what is it that I would have to pull away from? And this is one of those areas. So I'm just going to pull back a little bit from the shadows even, and maybe even off of the highlights. And that kind of just opens this up. I think the skin tone slider is what's given us the better effect because I kind of like this back area. So the next thing is to come over here. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Click the gear icon, pull up on the skin tone one, and that should brighten up this front area. And you see how this is starting to bring back some of that detail there. I don't want a whole lot of it to come back, but I want a little bit of it to come back. All right. Your image may not need this. Now, the last thing that I'm going to do to really kind of set this image over the top, right? If you look at this particular image, it's a little bit more poppy and I really like this. But how do we bring that to life in this particular image? Well, we're going to go ahead and hit add filter and we are going to click glow. All right. And I'm going to drag the glow above the curve and I'm just going to pull this up quite a bit. And that gives its own little look. And if you bear with me for a second, I think I actually just pulled back on the saturation instead of using a black and white filter. And I think that's why we're getting, I don't know why we're getting drastic differences. So give me a second. Let me click on this one and see what I am doing different. So we have no curve. That's right. So the reason why I had the curve on originally, and then I took the curve off. There it is. So the reason I took the curve off is the original image is actually kind of underexposed. If you look at the histogram, and let me just duplicate this real quick. So that way I can show you what the histogram looked like when this entire thing was reset. So I'm going to reset all of the filters there, come over to develop, and we'll reset tone and color. And we'll also come over to local. Just bear with me because I think it's important to teach the philosophy behind this. Most of our tones are right here, right? So this white area represents your tones. Now we have colors all throughout the tonal range, but where most of our tones actually exist are in the shadows and the shadow segment, because then you have your midtones and then you have highlights. So shadows, midtones are probably right here where info starts. So somewhere in this area, but moral of the story, you can see that it is exposed to the left of the histogram when we talk about exposure. Most of that's probably because of this sweater. Now, the reason I got rid of the curve was because the curve made the photo way too dark and it wasn't the type of final effect that I was going for. Now, I wanted to show that you do want to add a curve adjustment layer, and you could save this out as a preset if you need to or if you want it to. So that way you can pull it back up whenever you're ready to try this out again. But the reason I really wanted to show the curve is because that is a part of the original inspiration. And you may need to die down some of the light in a particular image. But before you do that, just take a look at your histogram. Make sure that you actually need that to happen. But as you can see, we pretty much replicated what was going on in this one. I still like the way that this particular image looks, and it's probably because I made this part of her face more in the shadow. And that's just something that, you know, you'll have to play around with, probably using this local adjustment here, just by pulling that over a little bit more. And, you know, I didn't make it exactly perfect, but hopefully, you know, you get the point. So if you found value in today's video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. If you are just meeting me, my name's Chris. I'm the content creator here at Free Will Photos. I make videos to help new photographers, intermediate photographers, learn photo editing software such as ON1, stuff of that sort, so you can get your creative vision out and into the world. If that's something you're into, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on the bell icon so you get notifications and all that good stuff. Merry Christmas to everyone, and until the next time, I want you guys to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.